Hey, how's it going? It's never been easier to create a team of AI bots that are capable of talking with each other and assigning tasks to one another to complete a request, thanks to AutoGen and AutoGen Studio 2.0. Now check this out. I asked two agents to generate a plot of two stock prices, and after some back and forth, one of the agents generated some code, the other one tried to execute it. It ran into some issues, but finally it was able to generate the plot as requested, and it did it in a few seconds versus what would take us hours to complete. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up AutoGen Studio 2.0, a web app built on top of AutoGen that facilitates managing and prototyping multi-agent apps. Let's create our working directory, and I'm going to call it AG Studio Demo. And then we're going to cd. Now we're going to create an environment. You can choose to use Conda. For this example, I'm going to be using venv just because it's simple to use. But if you're familiar with Conda, you can do exactly the same thing that we're going to do with venv. Let's do this. Now you can call the environment whatever you want. I'm just going to call it AG Studio, and then we're going to activate it. Bin activate. We know it's activated because we can see the name here in the terminal. Now we're going to install AutoGen Studio. We're going to use pip AutoGen Studio. Now this installs AutoGen Studio, of course, and it's going to install AutoGen, the framework, as well. All right, now we're going to be adding our OpenAI API key because we're going to be using GPT 3.5 Turbo as our model for this tutorial. And to do that, you're going to go ahead and grab the key from the OpenAI console, and then we're going to add it in our terminal. So we're going to do export. And then you're just going to add your key here. All right, I've added my OpenAI key, and now I'm going to run the AutoGen Studio. So to do that, we're going to type AutoGen Studio UI. Now that's going to take a few seconds, but you're going to see that you can access the website on this URL. So we're going to take it and we're going to paste it in the browser window. So let's do that. And as you can see, that's our AutoGen Studio running in the browser. Now for this tutorial, I'm going to keep things very simple, and we're just going to go over the main sections within AutoGen Studio. So we're going to take a look at what skills are, what models are, agents, and workflows. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can test everything in the playground. Now in the future, there's going to be more detailed tutorials for each of the sections. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you get notified when I publish these videos. First, we're going to go to skills. You can think of them as the capabilities of your agents. So basically an agent can have one or more skills. Skills are represented as Python functions. So if we click on one of the functions that are available by default within AutoGen Studio, like generate images, we can see the Python code that the skill uses, in this case, to generate an image. And we can see here on line 19 that it's calling the model doll E3 from OpenAI to generate an image based on a query. And obviously within the studio, you can create your own skill here. You're going to need to remove this function, which is a placeholder, and you're going to need to give your skill a name. And then you can write your Python script. Now let's take a look at models. And if we go to models here, we can see that AutoGen Studio comes with pre-configured models. We have GPT-4, two of them. One is using the OpenAI platform and one that's hosted on Azure. And we have a local LLM pre-configured here. Now, if we want to take a closer look, let's click on the GPT-4 one, and we can see that we have a name and a key here and other configuration that we're not going to touch on right now, but I'm going to show you how you can add your own model if you want to. So for example, I'm going to be using GPT 3.5 for future videos. So I'm going to go ahead and create it right now. I click on new model and then say GPT 3.5 Turbo, and I'm going to paste in my OpenAI key. This button here, test model, just to make sure that everything's working properly. Perfect. It says model tested successfully. Save it. And now this model that we added right now is accessible for our agents. And we're going to see how we can add the models later within the Agents tab. All right, now let's see what we have in the Agents tab. AutoGen comes pre-configured with two agents. One is called User Proxy and another one Primary Assistant. This one here, the User Proxy, acts on your behalf. So whenever you send a prompt, the User Proxy agent is going to take your request and it's going to relay it to other agents. And then if there's code that needs to be executed within the environment, the User Proxy is going to do it for you. Primary Assistant uses a large language model like GPT. And if we click here, we can see the properties and its configuration. We have the name, we have a description, max consecutive auto reply. This is the number of replies that this agent can do before it requires human intervention. Agent default auto reply. So in case the agent does not execute any code, what would the reply be? And the human input mode, never. So it's never going to ask for a human input. It's just going to be autonomous and work by itself. System message is essentially a message that is used by the model so that it can understand how it's going to behave. So these are kind of instructions that you give to the model when you set up your agent. Now we have the models models that we're going to be using. So we have GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is the one we just created. We have the temperature. So this kind of controls the randomness of the response from the model. Just going back to the model briefly, we can add other ones. So we can add GPT-4. This agent is going to be using 3.5 by default, but if it fails for some reason, it's going to fall back to GPT-4. You can add many models here, or you can go with just one. Now, these are the skills that you can assign to this agent. By default, this agent can find papers on arXiv and generate images. Now, if you create other skills like sending an email, you can click this button. You would call your skill maybe send email, then you can choose it and add skill. Now, workflows lets us define how these agents are going to be talking with each other. For example, we have the general agent workflow, a 2-agent setup where we have the user proxy, and this agent is going to be, like I said, executing tasks on our behalf. And we have a primary assistant, which is the other agent that's going to be using the large language model to generate text and to generate code. And that code is going to be executed by this user proxy. Now, this is a 2-agent setup, but we have more complicated setups that we're not going to really dive into in this tutorial, but I'm just going to show you this travel agent group chat workflow that includes a user proxy and a group chat manager, which inside of it, we have many agents. So we have a travel planner, an assistant, language assistant, etc. Now, it's important to note that you're in the driver's seat, so you can define how these agents talk to each other and when human intervention is necessary. Now, I'm going to dive deeper into these topics in future videos, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel just so you don't miss any updates as soon as they become available. All right, now the last thing that I want to show you is the playground, and that's where you can test your workflows and your agents and your skills. Basically, everything comes together within the playground. To create a new session, we're going to click on either of the buttons here. I'm going to do new, and we're going to get the option to choose the workflow. I'm going to select general agent workflow for this tutorial. I'm going to hit create. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. As you can see, we have stock price and other options. Let's go with travel. And whenever we send in a request, like we mentioned before, our user proxy agent is going to take our message or our prompt and send it to the primary assistant, which is going to use the model that it has access to generate the request. Now, it can also generate code. And to demo this, we're going to do stock price. Now let's take a look at what the agents are doing behind the scenes to understand how it came up with this chart. If we expand this agent messages tab, we can see the instruction that we sent, which is to plot a chart and then to save it as a PNG file. The primary assistant came up with the steps to do this task. It generated some Python code. Then the user proxy attempted to execute it, but ran into some issues. And then the primary assistant looked at the issues and gave the user proxy some instructions on how to resolve it. There was some back and forth between the two agents until the code executed properly, as you can see here. So the code executed successfully, and we can see the result file here with the stock prices and the plot as we requested. Now that's something that would usually take us a few hours to do, but having the assistant of AI agents and AutoGen Studio, this was done in basically no time. So that's everything for this tutorial, but there's going to be many more coming soon. So make sure to subscribe, as I've mentioned a couple of times before, so you don't miss any new videos as soon as I release them, especially that we're going to go into details on how to customize skills and create new ones, add new models. We're also going to discuss how we can add local models using Ollama or LM Studio, and we're going to take a look at custom agents and more workflow information. So I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.